Who is this? Ms. Nick, who it is? But right now, we have a men program. I call it Foundation Transformation of Men. And what we've been doing, we meet on every Monday night from like 6:30 to 8:30, 2 hours. And we talk about different things. We got a schedule and we got a curriculum. And then plus we got the youth against violence on Saturday. But that's men and women. You all want to deal with something with men. So that's why I started the men program, 21 and above. Okay. So right now, this is our second class. We're going through the second class.
But this is middle school and high school now.
Oh, you want a little bitty baby.
Right, we got to fix them at that age.
Yeah, so I catch them at youth against violence for that.
Okay.
So then we catch them. So we doing from 13 to 30. So the youth, as we go from 13 to like 20, and then from 21 we pick up and teach them a whole nother curriculum about being men, because some of them need to be that.
Right, because they got a lot of teachers sometimes.
Right. And then the first thing they come in there talking about, they having problems with their women. I said, well, because you're not a man.
And you see what how a man's supposed to be one.
Right. So
well, what not to tolerate.
Yeah. So we teaching out of the Bible, and we teach out of this book, Dr. Miles Monroe, The Purpose and Power of Men. So now I'm thinking about starting a female group, The Purpose and Power of Women. And then we do that, and then we bring them back together, like at the end, 2 weeks, so we could talk about the women thing, talk about the men, then we bring them back together so we could get them love. Because I'm doing something right here.
I heard you're
Freddie. Oh. Yeah, all right there.
We're going to get started. We're getting started in about 30 seconds. All right. We'll call to order the City of Douglasville City Council Legislative Work Session for tonight, which is Thursday, June the 16th. We have already had our invocation by Pastor Francisco Artley and the Pledge of Allegiance in our special call meeting, so we'll move on to item number 4, which is announcements and presentations, and we don't have any. The next committee, I apologize, let me go through the protocol. I'm ready to get to the agenda. So the announcements are the protocol for the meeting. This is a legislative work session. Voting will not be handled tonight. It will be dealt with on next Tuesday. Next Monday is Juneteenth, which is now a recognized holiday, and so we'll meet on next Monday. I'd like to welcome you to the City of Douglasville City Council Legislative Work Session. This is a work session where agenda items are presented for discussion only, and no official action will be taken on these items, but again, will be discussed and taken next Tuesday. If the business you're here for is not listed as an agenda item, there will be ample time under the agenda item comments from citizens and delegates section for you to discuss your business. There's just a few protocol items I'd like to go over, and then we'll jump right into the meeting and the agenda as it is printed, either a paper copy outside on the desk, or you can follow along on the screen. I'll ask that you please keep your comments and presentations on a professional level, dealing with the facts that are important for this governing body to make our decisions. Only one person speaking at a time. Please do not applaud or speak from the audience or cheer or carry on a conversation if you come to the front and you have to have discussion points. I'll remind you that we're only required to accept public comments during the required public hearings, and if you have a cell phone or electronic device, we'll ask that you'll please put those in silent mode so they will not be disruptive during the meeting. The agenda items will be handled as the following. The committee chairperson will read the agenda item, and then that person or the person representing that agenda item will come forward. The applicant will present their information. Myself and council members will possibly ask questions to help us make our decision for next Tuesday. After that, the committee chairperson will ask for comments or statements from the audience. There is a maximum of 20 minutes for those in favor of the item and 20 minutes for those in opposition, and each person has 5 minutes to speak, in totality again for 20 minutes. When you approach the podium, please give us your name and address for the record. There are cards out on the table that you should have filled out if you'd like to speak. Bring those cards forward and hand those to our city clerk, Ms. Vicki Acker, to my right, and she will put your information in the legal record. Each person has one opportunity to speak. This is not a question and answer format or debate. We're just here to hear the information, deliberate, and make a decision next week. If you have printed material, please give that to our city clerk, and she will distribute that information to us. And address all of your comments to the chair, please. And I believe that is it. So now we will move on with the agenda, which again is printed, and you can receive one of those printed agendas outside on the desk or follow along on the screen. We'll move on then to item number 4. We've done the presentation and announcements, and 5 is Economic Development Committee. That's chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Terry Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business at this time under the Economic Development Committee.
Thank you, sir. Finance Committee, chaired by Councilmember Mark Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
First tonight under Finance, authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with GRM Information Management Services of Atlanta, LLC, to facilitate off-site physical storage and electronic storage by way of scanning of documents for the city of Douglasville for an initial term of 36 months, beginning July 1, 2022. Ms. Alicia Mann is going to present that to us. Ms. Mann?
Alicia Mann, Project Manager, 6701 Church Street. What you have in front of you is the document storage agreement from GRM. It's a 36-month agreement where the company will supply appropriate boxing containers for records that will contain barcodes for reference of location of records that we have. It's an off-site facility that will have all of our records, the records that we ship off to the facility. It provides the required temperature and humidity control, as well as security that is recommended by Georgia Archives. The entire inventory can be managed by their e-access web portal, so we'll have access to all of our records, as well as it'll be scanned and delivered whenever we need it to. And they also provide certified destruction, with written authorization from the authorized users that are on the agreement. If you have any questions, I can answer them.
Thank you, Ms. Mann. I do have a question. Is this something that is a recurring contract that we are renewing, or is this a new company that we're going to be using?
So it's going to be a new company, but after the 3 years are up, you can renew the agreement with them.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions, comments? Madam Mayor?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Alicia, for the report. So have we done this in the past? I know we do have a storage room for something else. Though this is different, City Manager?
It is. If you all know, we have a storage unit, but this is systematic type storage that
Okay.
we probably should have gotten in the business to do a long time ago. So things like your permitting and your plans, as Ms. Mann mentioned, when someone is making a request, this company would have it filed in an organized way, in an organized manner. Currently, right now, we just have our stuff in a storage unit, and there is not any type of systematic way in which it's filed. This would get us there so that records would consistently be maintained all the time in an electronic format, and we're not either taking up room where people can work in office spaces or having them not in appropriate storage in just a regular storage unit.
Okay, so the storage is not a physical storage? Is it like the cloud, or you're scanning information and putting it someplace electronically? Or is it a hybrid of electronic storage information that's saved and/or physical?
So it's a physical storage. However, we can request to have it scanned to the portal, which is kind of cloud-based. But it's a physical storage. So we'll pack up, we'll box up the records, and they'll come and pick it up and put it in their facility.
So all those plans that are rolled up are going to be sitting in someplace?
Yes.
Ooh-wee, that's a lot. For how long? Do we have to, is there a time frame to keep the information? Is it 10 years, 5, 2? What's the time frame?
You mean before the records are destroyed, or? you mean like the-
To keep the materials, because I know there are a lot of materials. I've gone into like planning, or I'm not going to say offices, try to throw somebody under the bus, but it's a lot of plans that are folded up and rolled up in different places. And I know this will help us to catalog that and put them, in a systematic way. But how long do we keep those documents? Does it go back how many years, or is it just?
It depends on the retention schedule of the actual record. So each record for the department has a different retention schedule based on there's some building plans that you have
Also
to keep
just
for the life of the
depends.
building. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Mayor Pro Tem has a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
If I may be of some help, I don't know. I know that when I do drawings, if it's done as a public record, in other words, if there's a permit required for it, I'm required to keep the drawings, at least a physical copy, for 7 years.
Okay.
And I don't know if the city has the same or similar requirement, but I'm supposed to keep those on file for 7 years. So
Okay.
it may be same for the city, so.
Yeah, so it's based off the Georgia's retention schedule.
Yeah, the city clerk can answer. There's just state law that we have to follow with that.
Go ahead, Ms. Acker.
Yes, we have to follow the Georgia Archives for local government, and I think we adopted that in 2018.
Thank you. Coach Watts, you had a question or comment?
So we are, Ms. Mann, we're delivering everything and they scan it?
So we're going to recommend to keep the cost low because obviously they charge to scan the documents. We're going to scan them before we send them off, just to keep the cost low. However, we can ask them to scan documents and they can put it in the portal for us.
That's going to be time consuming for staff though, isn't it?
To scan the documents before sending them. Yeah, so we're going to do a tiered, to start it off, we're going to tier it off. So we're going to send off what we can scan. And then obviously, once as it goes on, we're just going to scan more. And so it's going to be periodically
Gotcha.
until we get all of our documents there.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Others? Okay. I'd like to request that we place this on the consent agenda if it's possible, unless there are questions or comments that you feel that the other council members need to hear. I'm getting some nods. I would hope that would be appropriate. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mann. We'll go to item B, authorize the mayor to sign agreements with Raymond James and Associates to advise and reinvest the city's Series 2021 and 2022 bond proceeds. Ms. Callan?
Yes, sir. Karin Callan, Finance Director, 6695 Church Street. Bill Camp with Raymond James, and most of you know him, will be passing out a handout to discuss with you this item.
Thank you, Ms. Callan. We've put Mr. Camp to work tonight. Thank you, sir. How are you? I'm great. Good. I think you've been called upon, Mr. Camp, to,
Yes, sir. Thank you for letting me speak this evening, and it's for a good reason. I gave you a little handout. and I
could you identify yourself for the
I'm
record,
sorry.
Mr. Camp? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Bill Camp, Raymond James. I live at 620 River Chase Ridge in Sandy Springs. I gave you all a little handout to give you a picture of what's going on and why we think it's a good idea for you all to consider some alternatives for money that you have waiting for its use, okay? If you look at page 2, the top picture is where we were, where rates were the last time you all were in the market, price and bonds. And the lower picture there shows you where rates are now. The red line is current market, the dark line is average, and all I want to point out to you is how much rates have gone up in the last few months. In fact, there's been about 1% rate change on your bond issue. So if you take away nothing from tonight's presentation, is you borrowed a good time and that money got more expensive. So good for you. Page 3. This is a graph of the 1-year Treasury note. The U.S. Treasury issues debt just like you do. And it's probably the most transparent marketplace there is. That debt has consistently gone up in yield. This 1-year maturity has gone up in yield throughout 22. You can see it started a little bit above 0.25%, and now we're at almost 3% today. That's a big change in a short period of time. Page 4. Your bond yield on the 22 bonds, that's the average rate for your tax-exempt borrowing, and it went over a 25-year period of time. Your average yield was a 2.62%. Then you see below that where treasuries are yielding for 1, 2, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. In other words, a 1 year yield on a U.S. Treasury, which is a permitted investment under Georgia law for cities, counties, governments, is yielding more, making more return than the bond money is costing you. Okay, so why am I here? You have funds, you have cash. Some of those dollars, like bond proceeds, are going to be spent over a period of time, 6 months, 12 months, maybe even longer. So when you have identifiable costs and identifiable time when you need that money, that means it's going to be sitting for some period of time. And so there's an advantage here for you to consider buying U.S. Treasuries, investing your money in things like U.S. Treasuries that are a fixed rate of return and have a fixed maturity date. Ignorance and apathy for the last decade has been, let's put our money into money market type investments, which is fine. Again, Georgia Fund 1 is one of those investments that the city has put dollars into, permitted investment under Georgia law, very safe, very liquid. In January, that fund was yielding 0.06%. Today, it's yielding 0.68%. So it's come up a good amount. But treasuries can yield multiples of what those short-term money market investments are getting you. So we at Raymond James, you know me through the debt business, but we also in the public finance area help assist municipalities with reinvesting their bond proceeds and also their general fund dollars. So we have proposed to be engaged to assist you with investing a portion of your dollars in higher yielding fixed rate investments. And our fee is actually part of the earnings that you make. In other words, we're not asking to be paid out of bond proceeds. We're being paid back over time through a portion of the earnings on the dollars. Our fee would be a sliding scale based on the amount of proceeds that you may or may not invest. We looked at around $20 million of bond money that looks to be the type of dollars that you can set aside for a certain period of time. And our proposed fee, again, is sliding. The more you invest, the smaller the fraction is. But at 0.0011%, if we were investing $20 million, that would be $23,000 fee for the firm. Again, it would really be lowering the city's yield on the investments that you purchase. But that's the ask. That's the reason for the engagement letter. Just like in the past, you all have engaged us to assist you with the planning of going into debt, and ultimately, we were your underwriter. This is the same kind of ask. We are asking to give you information and ideas and lay out a plan of attack for how to invest these proceeds, and just we are supposed to be engaged and outline the potential fees that we would make if the city's staff and council decide to go that route.
Thank you, Mr. Camp. It's interesting. Comments, questions? Madam Mayor, we'll start with you.
Okay, I'm not, I told you before, I'm better at spending, as my husband says. But I do know how much is in my account. So I just have a couple of questions. The risk, Mr. Camp, the risk, what the percentage of that? I know you can't give solid an answer for that, but
I
just.
can answer that.
Okay.
Okay. Fixed rate investments like buying U.S. Treasuries. Our advice here is going to be, look at when we need those dollars, match an investment that may be a little less than that need, maturing a little bit before you actually need it. Your construction draw schedules are by month. So if you think you need something October of 23, our advice is going to be buy an investment that matures in September 23. Okay? So here's the risk. If we had to sell a fixed income instrument in a rising interest rate environment, we may not sell it for the price that we bought it for, okay? We could lose principal. In other words, we want to make sure that we're matching these investments with the needs, okay? And that's not a function of the security being a risk. It's just a function of as yields go up, the price of that security goes down. But if you buy an investment, just like a bond, right? When you buy it, the day you buy it, you know what your yield, you know your rate of return for the life of that investment. So if we hold it to final maturity, which is absolutely the plan anytime you buy something like this, anytime you invest your dollars in something like this, it's a U.S. Treasury. It is going to pay. They have a printing press, and they will pay you in dollars. Now, those dollars may be worth less a year from now than they are today, but it's going to pay. It's the safest investment.
So the risk is not high. So when you mentioned savings bonds, and that was in my brain too, we have savings bonds for our kids, but they can't take them out for a certain amount of time. So if we do it before then, is it a penalty, or will you lose what you've been? Okay.
It could be. Again, now, we're looking at a time frame here that is going to be fairly short.
Okay.
We're looking at the spending schedule for accomplishing the park project and matching up a maturity date before when we actually need those dollars.
Okay.
And if I'm just using this as a for instance, if you had $1 million projected draw, right, you might want to invest 80 or 90% in fixed income and leave 10% liquid, just in case.
Okay. And this is like for JD, the project we're talking about that could help us with that. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Others? Yes, Coach?
The current economic situation we find ourselves in with the looming recession and things like that, do they have an impact on these types of investment or no?
Well, when you purchase that instrument, when you invest those dollars, you have fixed your rate of return.
Okay.
So if rates go up, you still have the yield that was fixed on day one. If prevailing market rates go down, you still have your yield. All you're buying is certainty when you invest in fixed income. You know that you're going to make a certain amount of money on your dollars. And it's a good hedge to avoid variances that are going to happen.
So, Mr. Camp, the investment is safe, the timing is what is at issue, okay? And so in the economy that we're in and with the spending schedule that we would have, it's very unlikely that we're going to need the dollars ahead of the maturity because of logistics and the schedules that we face as far as challenge.
I could not have said it better.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Federal Reserve just raised rates 0.75%. Has that already been priced into this market now?
You're seeing the rates that were posted at the end of business yesterday.
Okay.
The 1 year, just so you know, the day before the Fed's action, the 1 year was actually yielding a little bit more.
Okay.
It was this hysteria that's been going on. Everybody thought, oh, they're going to raise it 0.5%. Then the idea came that, nope, they're going to kick it up 3/4. So,
Well, I understand your strategy to set the maturity rates at just short of the amount, just short of the date needed. Is there any benefit to actually, because of the current rate environment, which is likely to continue to go higher, is there any benefit to reduce that strategy, to reduce that maturity to several months before to get to play on flipping those into a higher interest rate?
that's a very, very good question. So we can quantify, think of it like a race. When you're driving in a car and you're driving 30 miles an hour and somebody passes you going 100. The longer you wait to accelerate, the more you have to accelerate to catch them. In other words, time's on your side. With bond money, think about it this way. You've got more bond money in the account right now than you're ever going to have because you keep spending it. So it is a good point. I take the position of if we know the spending schedule and you're ready to move ahead and rates are higher than where we were when we borrowed, which they are, I'd go ahead, my personal opinion is go ahead and make the most yield that you can now. And we looked at this, just so you know, recently on another investment portfolio for another client. Should we put some maturing at 3 and 6 months to come back later? And our projections were that if the market anticipated we were going to increase 0.5%, we had to have more than 60 basis points of rate increase to catch up, to break even. So I'd go with what I know versus what I think.
So laddering isn't really an effective strategy?
It would be a ladder. So because you're not spending all your money in 12 months.
Right.
You spend some money every month. And so the idea here is to have a ladder. That's exactly right.
Sounds like the same strategy we used to always think about when we bought computers for the offices when computers were newer. You're always thinking, if I wait 6 months, the computer will be faster and cheaper, but you'll always be waiting 6 months because they're continuously getting faster and cheaper.
Well,
Okay.
that's another, yes, sir. That's a very good example.
One last question. Are I-bonds something that are available to municipalities, or are those only strictly for consumers to purchase? Because those can be used as hedges against inflation as well.
They are, and they're yielding huge returns right now. You're limited to 10 grand.
Okay,
So you got.
We can't buy them. No, we can't buy them. Okay.
It's a good idea. And I actually, you're not the only person that had that idea. It's just we've got a limit
Okay.
on what we can buy.
Okay.
An investor has a limit.
Yeah.
Others?
That's true.
Anyone? Thank you very much, Mr. Camp.
Thank you.
Folks, I personally see this as a no-brainer. As far as, I know that our staff can give Mr. Camp and his firm an idea of when we need the money. I'm sure that they'll be directly involved in that investment portfolio and that ladder, so to speak. So I'm going to ask if there is no objection that we place it on the consent agenda and go forward. Anyone? Thank you, Mr. Camp. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Yes, sir.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Madam Mayor, that's all that we have tonight under finance. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Camp. We appreciate the report. We'll move on then to Housing and Community Affairs Committee. The Vice Chair is you also, Councilman Adams.
We have no business tonight under Housing and Community Affairs. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Legislative and Intergovernmental Committee, chaired by Councilmember Samuel Davis.
Madam Mayor, no business tonight. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Thank you, Councilman Davis. Personnel and Organization Committee, chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business tonight under Personnel and Organization.
Thank you, sir. Planning and Development Committee, it's back to you, Councilman Mark Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
We have 3 items tonight under Planning and Development. First item, consider a request for revised plat approval for Presley Park for the purpose of combining lots 27 and 28 of Presley Park subdivision totaling .95 acres at 5602 and 5604 Boardwalk in land lot 54, District 1, Section 5, parcels 71 and 72. Those parcel numbers 00540150071 and 72. Application by HRC, care of Aaron McCullough. Ms. Shayla Reed is going to present that to us.
Greetings, Mayor and Council. I'm Shayla Reed, Community Development Director at 6701 Church Street. The item before you is a new final plat for 2 residential lots that are merging for the sake of allowing a larger lot for land for residential development. And all agencies and departments have reviewed it, and no issues were found with this request.
Thank you, Ms. Reed.
Thank you.
You'll see on page 6 of our attachment, folks, the 2 lots that are being requested to be combined. Questions or comments? Is there a need that we need to hear from anyone from HRC, and is there a representative of HRC here?
There is one. Yes, sir,
Okay.
there is one.
Any questions that anyone would have? Okay. That's all that we have on that matter. Then we'll take it up on Tuesday. We'll go to item B. Consider a request for revised plat approval for Douglasville Crossroads, Track 4, for the purpose of correcting the plantation pipeline easements per deed book 121, pages 385 and 386, 2.51 acres at 1000 Lennon Cole Drive, land lot 161, District 2, Section 5, parcel 94, parcel number 01610250094. Application by HRC, care of Jesse Swafford. Ms. Reed?
Thank you, Councilman. The item before you is a request to revise an existing plat. This is a development that's existing with hotels located on the site. They are in the process of selling the land, and to clean up some of the conversations inside of the sale, we're allowing for them to revise the existing plat. So this is a revision where it's going from 60 feet of an easement to 50 feet.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Is this, I guess rather than say a housekeeping matter, this is something that needs to be corrected as a part of the sale of the property possibly?
Correct.
As far as correct meets and bounds?
Yes, sir,
Okay.
that is correct.
Questions, comments? Anyone have any questions of Ms. Reed or of the applicant? Mr. Dodson, do you have anything to add to this? I think you've done the work on it.
Apparently on the original plat, the width of the easement was incorrect, so for the purpose of sale, we need to get the correct width on the final plat.
We'll call it another housekeeping issue, correct? Okay.
Somebody said?
There you are. Question, comment? Seeing none, then we will take this up on Tuesday also. Item C, consider request for revised plat approval for Concourse Center lots 9 and 10 for the purpose of correcting the plantation pipeline easement per deed book 121, pages 385 and 386 for 4.09 acres at 7101 Concourse Parkway, Lot 9, and 7055 Concourse Parkway, Lot 10, in land lot 161, District 2, Section 5, parcel 5 and, parcel 10 and 44. Parcel numbers 016102500 50010 and 016-102-50044. Application by HRC, care of Jesse Swafford. Ms. Reed.
Yes, sir. This is the same property that the previous item was mentioning, same easement, just two separate lots.
So same basic location as far as the property is concerned, but a different lot within that development
That's correct.
and a different need for correction.
That is correct.
Okay. Questions, comments? Seeing none, might I go back and request that we, is there a reason why we could not place these items A, B, and C on the consent agenda since we've had no question, no issue? Mr. Counselor? Okay. Ms. Reed, we thank you for that, and I would request that that be done.
Thank you, Councilman. Council
Thank
members.
you all. Madam Mayor, that's all that we have tonight under planning and development.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for our Community Development Director, Ms. Reed, and Attorney Dotson for helping us with those items. We'll move on then to Public Improvement and Beautification Committee. I'll ask the Mayor Pro Tem if you don't mind taking that committee, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's no business under the Public Improvement and Beautification Committee at this time.
Thank you, sir. Public Relations Committee, chaired by Councilmember Howard Estes.
No business this evening. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you. Public Safety Committee, chaired by Councilmember Samuel Davis.
Yes, ma'am, I have one item, and I'd like to start with the item A. Hold a public hearing to consider a request for an alcoholic beverage license for the on-premise sale and consumption of wine and malt beverage, spirit, liquor, and following establishment. Proposed licensee Silver Link Enterprise LLC, DBA CRU, Crew, location 844 Courthouse Square. Proposed agent outlet manager Porsche Perriman. The required fees have been paid into the finance department. Ms. Perriman, please come down.
Yes, I'm right here.
Yes, ma'am. How are you? State your name and.
Good evening. I'm Portia Perryman of 8440 Courthouse Square, and we are representing Crew Restaurant. I have Marcus Perryman and Dennis McKinley with me.
Okay, can you gentlemen give his name?
Yes. Hi, I'm Marcus Perriman, 8440 Courthouse Square.
And what is your role?
Pardon?
What's your role?
The role.
Oh, I'm operating partner.
Okay. And you're?
Greetings, Dennis McKinley. I represent the actual franchise company, Crew Lounge, 691 John Wesley Dobbs, Atlanta, Georgia. We also have our general counsel here, Amber Saunders.
Hello, Amber Saunders. I represent Corporate Crew, 6 Concourse Parkway, Suite 2140, Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, so the manager, we have questions. You know, we have a public hearing, and we have to go through the process before we even think about giving a license out here in our great city, Douglasville. We're a quiet, hidden place. So I'll open up the floor for the mayor and council before I ask the chief. Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much, Councilman Davis. Welcome. We're excited to hear about your project. If you can just give us an overview of what you're seeking your license for and just talk to us about your business.
So we are wanting to bring more food to the area as well as bringing more, because we know the downtown is evolving and it's turning more into a kind of like a workplace live type of environment. And so we're wanting to help facilitate that and bring something close to home for people because we've been in this area since 2005. So we've watched Douglasville evolve ourselves and seen it grow, and we know what the community wants from being in it, and they're just wanting things closer to home that's just as good as Atlanta, but not having to drive so far and be able to go, 5-10 minutes. So that's what we're wanting to bring to the area.
Okay. Thank you so much. So this for on-premises sale for wine and malt beverage. Is it a restaurant or is what?
Yes, we are a restaurant.
Okay, and you know about the 51%, the ratio with food and alcohol?
Yes, we did. We have the forms and we know about the monthly reporting and everything.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman,
sir.
Thank you.
Councilman.
Thank you all of you, Ms. Perriman, and the entire group for coming before us. I just have a couple of questions. It looks as though you have an LLC that has been in existence. Do you have other locations of this type of franchise? Is this a franchise or?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have other locations that you operate under this name and with this business plan?
Yes, we actually currently have 12 locations nationwide. We've been in business since 2010. We started Midtown Atlanta. We currently have 5 locations in Metro and Atlanta, as well as 3 locations in Texas, Charlotte, Las Vegas, with another 15 under development at some point.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all.
Councilman Watts?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are you at liberty to reveal the type of food that you'll have on the menu?
I know it's a secret. We're excited.
Yes, we are. So some of our favorite meals that we have, because we recently revamped the menu, we have a rasta pasta that you can get with shrimp or chicken or beef. And then we also have lamb chops. We have amazing wings, burgers. We have salmon Phillies, chicken Phillies, beef Phillies. What else? We have shrimp skewers that are amazing. We have our own spin on, like Mexican corn, but we have our own spin on it that's amazing that we highly recommend. And we have quesadillas and anything else on there? Okay. And so that's the gist of our food. So it's something a little different that's a little different from the other restaurants here that, and people can have some of their favorites close.
And Ms. Perryman, have you, I'm jumping all in the conversation. Have you held a license before with alcohol?
No, I haven't.
Okay, this is your first time. Okay.
Okay. Dr. Watts?
Thank you. Appreciate your answer and appreciate you bringing your business to downtown Douglasville. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I had another question or
Yes.
comment, just so that everyone is aware of where this is. Are we talking about the corner up the street from Gumbo's on that corner in the 2-story building?
Yes, right across from the museum.
Right across from the old courthouse? Many years ago, that was a local auto supply store, White Auto Supply, with a machine shop and retail counter and so forth.
Yeah.
And I worked there as a kid.
That building that we're talking about?
That
the
is correct.
8440?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Oh, wow, I did not know
But
that.
my question is, I think that it has been remodeled and has been reconditioned. You all have come in and have, I'm assuming you've put in a kitchen. Obviously, you have to go through all that. Where in that building would you place a kitchen and how's it laid out?
So our kitchen is, do you remember how it had kind of the 2 sides?
Well, it
familiar
had
with
2
it? 'Cause
halves.
I'm-
When I was there, there was a
Okay,
machine
I'm
shop
trying to figure
and a
out
retail
the best
floor.
way to describe it. So pretty much when you come in, there's a left and the right, and it's basically pretty much a big U in a sense.
Okay.
So right there in the middle on the back side is where we put the kitchen.
Okay.
So it's kind of centrally in the middle of the building.
I know Councilman Davis remembers that. He just doesn't want to admit his
Yeah.
age.
I got my first engine from Mr. White.
Thank you. Thank you, folks.
I'm not messing around with you. I thought it was one of the lock-in places. Wasn't that the other business that was there? Escape room.
Yeah.
I said lock. I'm thinking about church when you get locked in, but an escape room.
Just
Okay.
one last question, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman. So I'm assuming y'all use both floors, people sitting up stairs and down, or?
As of now, we are just using the bottom because we have talked with the fire department and they're wanting an additional egress at the top first before we're able to use it, which is very understandable. I'm sorry. So we're only using the bottom as of now.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Councilman Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, full disclosure, I was the architect of record for the white box build-out of that space. So, and Councilman Watts asked the question I was going to ask if you were intending to use the upstairs, because I knew that there was some issues with egress on the second floor, and I was curious to know if that was the intention at this time. So you're just going to be on the first floor.
Yes, just the first floor for now.
And are you providing outdoor seating as well? Looks like you've done some work on the little courtyard there.
Yes, so we end up having to fill out the whole area. It used to pretty much be a forest, for lack of better words. And so we end up having to pave it, so we were wanting to use that as a patio space and give that indoor-outdoor feel.
You have a couple parking spaces there, I think, as well, right? that you're gonna-
So we actually won't be using those spaces. Being that we had to add a handicap ramp, it was recommended that we don't use that and keep it free for making it handicap accessible. So that immediate right there won't be used.
It may or may not be germane to this, but make sure you are aware of the ADA and handicap laws of the city, especially when it comes to service animals.
Oh, I
Please be aware of that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm a gunner.
Okay, is that it? Yes, Mr. Chairman, I need a little more details. Is this a club, lounge, or what are we doing now?
No, I wouldn't say that we are a club.
Will it be entertainment?
Yes, we will have a DJ, and there are moments where we were interested in having live bands play, but it is, the core behind us is a restaurant, because the number one thing we wanted to bring was more food options, but there is an entertainment aspect to it, to where we want people to come and have a, kind of like a good place to go away from home in their community.
Mhm. So when you have to have security.
Mm-hmm.
And Chief, have you pulled them up? See what we got on them?
Yes, Councilman, I met with them today for maybe an hour or two. And I feel certain that they will make sure that they have the proper security, camera systems. They understand that, and I think they don't want to come in and with no nonsense. Let them understand that we're not going to put up with any shenanigans and the things that we've seen that some of the restaurants are doing in other metro area cities. So, and I think the father and Miss
Perryman.
Yeah, Miss Portia and the mother, they were very concerned about, they run a top A1 establishment. So, so we'll just have to see. And I believe them at the word.
So it's a hooker lounge? Is it hooker?
You said hookah?
Yeah, you said hooker.
Yes, it's called hookah.
Okay, so that'd be, I don't know anything about it. It's the pipes that they smoke and all that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, during the restaurant time?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Chairman, you keep opening the door for more questions. I've got to know what that means.
That's why we're here, sir.
So what does that entail?
What does hookah
A hookah
entail?
lounge.
Well, you said what does a hookah lounge entail? Well, I wouldn't put us, again, in that light, because our core is the food. That's more so an additional, it's kind of like when you eat your food and you're able to get a drink with it. It's kind of like that type of additional pleasure that people can enjoy.
Okay.
So I don't know what you mean exactly by hookah lounge.
Well,
or just have
he
it
asked
as a
the
vice
question
word?
and you said yes to the hookah
Oh.
lounge. So I'm wondering,
Oh, no,
what
I
does
thought
that
he was
entail?
just asking if there was hookah. That's why I was saying yes. I'm sorry.
It's like the smoking of a pipe or herb that they can come in and sit down and while they sitting having a dinner and having a drink, and they may have different flavors.
Yes.
And
It's
the
legal.
people can come in and have a smoke of that. But we did talk about security and the police department is there to help them if they want to hire off-duty officers, and I did let them know that we do have an undercover department, and that we do send undercovers in all these restaurants. I just be straight up with people that come in
I
and let
need
them know
you to
where
be.
we stand.
Exactly. Thank you.
Right, so, and they, and like I said, we had a great conversation, and I think they're here to do the right thing, at least that's what the impression I got, and if not, time will tell.
Yep. 'Cause we just
This is your committee, Mr. Chairman. I'm not trying to
Okay.
take it over, but I do have a question,
help
Mr. Dodson.
yourself because we want to get it all in now while we're here.
Yes, sir. Mr. Dodson just reminded me, when I was on city council years ago, we have a no smoking ordinance in the city of Douglasville.
Yes, we do have a no
So-
smoking ordinance.
So hookah doesn't constitute smoking indoors? Mr. Dodson?
I'm not sure. I know we have a no smoking policy for all public facilities.
Right.
But city-owned, but I don't know if we have one for
We-
individual businesses or not.
We have to do some investigation. We probably go back.
Yeah, I mean, we have cigar
We gotta
lounges
go-
and stuff, but it's like a, not a humidifier. Yeah, like a whole system for smoke and stuff. This is
It's
not
like a
applicable?
vape. It's like a vape. We have other places here that's doing smoking hookah.
Oh, that's fine. I was just making sure.
I'm just saying,
I'm-
I'm just letting you know that, it's like a vape. You see these people, I guess, that, I don't smoke, but that's what my knowledge of it is
So it's allowable, though? All the
Yes,
vaping and stuff
yes.
in the hookahs? Okay, I'm just making certain. I'm not trying to throw shade, just trying to make everything is in proper.
Mrs. Mayor, I did want to just talk about our food sales ratio in the city of Atlanta. We are also required to certify our sales by a CPA and report those to the city of Atlanta. Currently, we're at 50 to 52% food, 40% alcohol, and 10% on hookah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Chief, did you find any violations of the city of Atlanta on this group?
No, we didn't, but we just talked about that we are aware of some places, and that's nothing on them, that some of these places have had issues in Atlanta. And that's why we sit down and talk for an hour, and, they're gonna have the camera system inside, outside, 21, you gotta be 21 to get in, and they got trained security gonna be there, and then they hire some of our off-duty officers, and, we'll just do what we can to keep everybody safe up there.
So the age limit to get in the lounge would be what?
It's 21.
21.
Yes.
And we do require you to check all IDs. That's number one, all IDs. Not just, if you're looking like me, still check my ID.
Councilman, that is the requirement of the franchise. We check all IDs, all.
And how do you go about training your employees?
For the ID checking or just in general?
ID checking, pouring alcohol?
So for the ID checking, it is mostly done, we do have an independent security company that we hire that is licensed and insured. And so it is, their responsibility is placed upon for that initial ID checking. And then as well, all of our servers have alcohol awareness training as well as doing safe serve training. It's required by the franchise yearly for maintaining. And then we do have background checks that we run on our staff to ensure that they've been following these requirements and that we're going to have a good team that understands the rules and the laws of where we are.
And you have to get your permit, the staff had to get the alcohol permits from Chief Sparks? Okay. Any more questions, before we hold our public hearing? Okay, at this time, we will hold a public hearing. And we have 5 minutes for those who speak against your license coming here in our great city. And we have 5 minutes for those who speak for your license coming here. So at this time, we're opening up for public hearing. If anyone will come down and speak against, the floor is open. The clock is ticking. Okay. We see no takers speak against. There are 5 minutes for those who come down to speak for. Clock is ticking. Madam Mayor, at this time, we see no takers, and I close the public hearing. And if you come back on Tuesday, and Chief, would you look into a little more investigation for me, please?
Yes, sir.
And thank you all for coming out. That's all I got, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. We appreciate your bringing opportunity for new businesses in our downtown, growing downtown. We'll move on to the next committee, which is Recreation, Culture, and Tourism Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one
You're
item
welcome.
to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with John Pearson for the provision of security services at city parks. Mr. Bass will handle this.
All right. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. Chris Bass, 8830 Gurley Road, Parks Recreation Director. This is our annual agreement with with Pearson Security to provide security services throughout all 7 parks. We've come every year around this time before the July 1st deadline, and this is reflective of the conversation we had on May 16th that pertains to park security. But I'll be happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, I'll start with you, and then we'll go from there if anybody has any comments or questions.
I don't have any questions, just an observation. I know we've had some ebbs and flows and as far as the park security is concerned, just in particular parks. So have those issues been addressed with, I guess, cameras and just to add more security measures to help us to, when Mr. Pearson's officers or employees can't get to?
Yes, ma'am. We've been working with police department and with our IT department to make sure that we are adding cameras, and our Mr. Jenkins from IT has given us access to the cameras. So we're able to pull them up real time now. So, yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's my only concern. I know those are some of the issues that we had, and I'm just making certain that we were able to identify those areas, put cameras there, and have Mr. Pearson follow. He's been doing a good job for us for years, so just following up. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am. Councilman Davis?
Yes, thank you, Chris. It has just slowed down and been a totally change since you came before us and put everybody back going. And I could see a big difference. And I'm sure you don't get the calls you used to get every night anymore. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. Bass, Chris, go ahead and, this is a renewal of an annual agreement, but we're bumping up their hours for the following year. If you could just explain that and the reason behind it, just so everybody knows.
Yes, sir. So based on the conversation we had on May 16th, we have gone back to the traditional hours of park hours that we've had security in the past. That transition was originally during the pandemic 3 days a week, but we've gone back to what it was prior to the pandemic. However, with the caveat, we do need to make any changes that we can. It's an annual contract, so we need to make any changes we can. But and also the caveat of there's a clause in here that if we need to make any changes within 30 days, we can with notification of Mr. Pearson. So.
And I also noticed that that Pearson will agree to spend half a shift, at least one security person at either or Jesse Davis or Hunter Park. And I know that Councilman Davis and Councilwoman Berdanley have had some concerns about some things, so we're addressing those. But if there's an issue, they still have to call the Douglasville Police.
Yes, sir. They still do have to call the Douglasville Police Department.
So they're unarmed. They're still using 2 of our vehicles.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Councilman.
Coach, just a question. I'm looking here on the work schedule and compensation. Has this rate of pay been increased as a part of the vast increase in hourly wages, or is this the old amount? Where are we there as to being able to retain, for him to be able to retain his employees?
Yes, sir. There was no recommendation for a change this year with this particular contract. This change actually was made before we went through any compensation study with city employees back in 2019. Maybe we increased it, 2019, 2020.
But Mr. Pearson is fine with this?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
One thing I wanted to ask about, and correct me if I'm wrong, there have been issues in the past with communication between their company and our parks director, whether it's you or previously Travis, as far as any incidents. So they will be logging and you will be in the loop as far as any issues that come up.
Yes, sir, and I have communicated that with Mr. Pearson. Anytime there's an incident, he's been sending me reports for us to figure out any other ways if there's something that we need to mitigate on our end. So I have communicated that with Mr. Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. Bass. Anything else before I close it out? What's that? No.
He said, Mr. Bass.
Mr. Bass. Mr. Bass. I said that.
You're going to get into trouble tonight.
Anyway, if it's all right with council, I'll place this on the consent agenda for a minute. Thank you, Mr. Bass, for your report. Thank you. Madam Mayor, that's all I had tonight in Recreation, Culture, and Tourism.
I know it. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. We appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. Bass. I will move on then to Technology Committee, chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Terry Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's no business under the Technology Committee at this time.
Thank you, sir. I would ask that you would please take Transportation Committee as well.
I will be happy to do that. Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one item under the Transportation Committee, which is to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Georgia Department of Transportation setting forth the project framework for the preliminary engineering phase of Fairborn Road Complete Street Project between Hospital Drive and Veterans Memorial Highway. That is US 78 and State Routes 8 and 5. Mr. Marcus Thompson, please enlighten us.
All right, Marcus Thompson, City Engineer, 6701 Church Street. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
So the city was recently awarded funding from the ARC for preliminary engineering phase of the Fairborn Road Corridor Improvement Project. That being said, to move forward with the preliminary engineering phase of this project, the Georgia Department of Transportation requires the local jurisdiction to enter into a project framework agreement. The Fairborn Road Corridor Improvement Project Framework Agreement is a binding legal agreement between GDOT and the City of Douglasville, which contains the project phase participation commitments of both the City of Douglasville and GDOT. Staff and legal has reviewed the document, the agreement. Are there any questions or concerns?
Can you sort of explain a little bit of what we get out of the first engineering phase? Do you have a rough way of explaining what comes with that?
Yeah, so what we will get, I can give you guys a few examples. Basically, it'll be like an environmental assessment of the area. Also, they will tackle some of the like preliminary utilities work that we should look out for. Also, they would take care of some of the preliminary work regarding the right-of-way acquisition phase, so we can basically transition into that phase.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Open the floor.
And I can follow back up with
more
information for you on Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, regarding
we have any questions or comments from Councilman Adams?
I have a question. Mr. Chairman, I'm just curious, is there any map showing the area? That's rather confusing when you describe, in my opinion, when you describe the complete street project between Hospital Drive to Highway 5. But you did not describe it that way. That's the way it is written in my paperwork. It says complete street project between Hospital Drive to Highway 5. So I don't know how you connect those two.
Councilman Adams, that agenda item was actually edited, but not perhaps before these agendas were printed.
So I need to have an update on that item then.
Ms. Acker, can you provide the correct language to describe that a little more accurately? And the reason it was changed, Councilman Adams, was because Hospital Drive and what most of us think of as Highway 5 is not, they don't actually connect.
Correct.
What we're thinking of is 78/8/5. So you're talking about Fairborn Road going between Hospital Drive and Veterans Memorial Highway.
Until you get to Bright Star to Highway 5. Is that what you're saying?
No, ma'am.
No.
Because 5 is on, that's the
Just
only
as
way
that
you
Fairborn
get.
Correct.
Road.
So the language of that agenda item did change slightly to be more descriptive of the actual land. So again, if you think of Veterans Memorial Highway, where Fairborn Road intersects with Veterans Memorial Highway at that dead end right by the railroad tracks, and then back up to Hospital Drive.
Okay, that makes sense. So State Highway 92 is what I would call it, from the old Bankhead Highway down to Hospital Drive.
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Well,
I had one way printed here, and one way here, and it did not refresh whenever I tried it, so my apologies. Now that I understand it, that's fine.
It is a little confusing.
And the paper says US 78, 8, and 5 as well. Yeah.
78, or Veterans Memorial is Highway 5 at that point, I believe. Am I not correct? Highway
Must
5,
be.
when it hits Veterans, it turns east and goes along Veterans. Georgia has some very confusing state highway routing systems.
Highway 5, Highway 8 for Georgia, and then US 78.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize that. Everybody just thinks of it as
I'm
78,
clear.
they don't think of it as 5 as well at that point.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any additional questions or comments? All right. Seeing, do we need to do any, Madam Counselor, do we need to do any corrections to this wording?
No, that's correct.
Do we?
Yes,
Do
ma'am.
we need? Do, oh, okay,
In the system.
okay. Gotcha. Okay, I just want to make sure there's nothing, so we can, if it is the will of council, we can put this on the consent agenda for Tuesday? All right, so be it. That is all I have under the Transportation Committee, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair, and thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you.
Now we're down to item 17. Is there any other business that come before council tonight? Only thing is the announcement of Monday is Juneteenth. That's now a federal holiday, so we do not have, the city will be closed, and we do not have council meeting until the next day, which is this Tuesday. But this weekend, there are several events that will be held on O'Neill Plaza, Saturday and Sunday, to celebrate Juneteenth. Yes, sir, Mr.
Okay.
Tom.
And it starts on Friday night with the scholarship banquet from BHE here in the great city, and that's the Black Education Historic Exhibit, Melvin Johnson banquet. And then on Saturday, it actually starts the Juneteenth celebration. There'll be vendors and food trucks and live entertainment. And on
What time, Councilman?
From 11 to 6
Okay.
on Saturday and Sunday. And Sunday is all gospel. And one of the radio stations will be out, but we have Pastor Canyon, got Bishop Parker, our local bishop, and Minister Jerry Birding, and there's a host of gospel entertainment on Sunday, celebrating Juneteenth.
Okay.
Come out and have your dinner from one of the food trucks and just spend the day with us.
All righty. Thank you so much. That's exciting news when people to be cognizant of the heat as well. I know there's a heat index, so they tell you when you should be outside the best times. Protect yourselves. Any other announcements or business from council members? Okay, so we'll move on with the updates from city staff. Our city attorney, Mr. Joel Dotson.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Dotson. Staff attorney, Ms. Miranda Jordan. Thank you, ma'am. The chief. Only a chief can wear sherbet lime jacket. Chief of Police, Chief Gary Sparks.
Oh, yes. We will be having an active shooter town hall meeting Friday, but we'll get out before you get started with Juneteenth from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And we'll be putting that on along with the Sheriff Department and the Douglas County School System. We just want our citizens to know that we here at the Douglasville Police Department, you all have equipped us, that we had a situation that's closely related to the situation in Texas or any of these other situations, that our men and women are ready to go once they arrive. They don't have to wait on getting some heavier weapon systems or heavier body armor. They already have it, and we train them to go direct the threat or limited penetration if they're by themselves. But that's what we just want our citizens to know, what our protocol would be, and then we will show a little short video about run, hide, and fight. And if they, at a workplace or mall or any other place they may be in this situation happen, we just want them to be aware. So we'll be doing that Friday for a few hours.
Friday from
6:30
to 8 p.m. Is it virtual or hybrid or in person?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's at the police department, 2083 Fairburn Road in the community room.
Okay. Yes, sir.
2083 Fairburn Road.
Thank you so much, Chief. We appreciate everything that you do for us and making us one with our community. We'll move on to our city manager, Ms. Marsha Hampton.
No, ma'am, I think you stated it, but just to remind everybody that Monday is a holiday, so therefore city services will be closed with the exception of parks. So if anybody's looking to utilize services like finance or community development, they will have to wait until Tuesday.
Okay. Thank you so much, City Manager. Comments from citizens and delegates. If you sustain the meeting and you'd like to speak with us, please come forward. Give us your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes to talk to us about any business germane to the city of Douglasville.
My name is Cindy Welch. I live at 3002 Concord Way, Douglasville. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but what is going to happen at Durley Lane? I use that, I'll call it a cut-through, and I do use it a lot. But there was a auto transport truck came down Bankhead Highway. He was ahead of me. He made that left turn onto Durley. Down at the bottom of the hill, there's a four-way stop. He never even stopped. He went right on through, and when he got to the speed humps, he was over in the other lane. If another car had been coming, or kids, they're on bicycles there all the time because of the apartments and the school, somebody's going to get killed.
Chief, thank you so much, Ms. Welch. Chief, you have the information. Do we have, isn't there a light there, a stoplight?
No.
No?
Four-way stop.
Oh, it's a four-way stop.
But he didn't
Big
stop.
B, oh, big.
I mean, our officers sit there a lot, they write tickets right there at that four-way stop.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a ticket place for since I was here. But, you know, we just have to monitor it. That's what we're doing. We look at it.
All right, thank you, Chief. Yes, sir. Thank you, Ms. Welch, for bringing it to our attention. Do we have any other comments from citizens and delegates? If not, and we don't have any other business, this meeting is adjourned.